For more on this and some other important stories, we're pleased to be joined now from Newsmax Washington by the former director of the CIA and the National Security Agency as well, General Michael Hayden. The general's now a principal at the Chertoff Group, and he is the author of the book Playing to the Edge, American Intelligence in the Age of Terror. Mike, as we were greeted by the revelations from D.C. leaks today, as intriguing as the political gossip is, there's another serious question here, and that is, you used to run our intelligence agencies. How vulnerable are we when we see this kind of information now out and about?
Well, we're very vulnerable, J.D. Look, if, as we believe, this is a nation state, the Russian Federation, coming after these emails, it's very hard for an individual or an internet service provider here in the United States to mount a sustained defense against a determined attacker. What's really more interesting and more troubling, JD, is not just the theft of the data, but the use of the data. If it is indeed the Russians, they're weaponizing this information, not just conducting espionage, but weaponizing the information to, I think, frankly, erode confidence in our electoral processes, erode confidence in our leaders, and if I can just be very straightforward, they're just messing with our heads.
Well, let me ask you this, because there is a difference of opinion. If you hear from the people at DC Hacks, to the extent we get comments from them, they say they are United States citizens, self-described hacktivists. Now, there are cybersecurity experts who say, wait a minute, this has the earmarks, the telltale signs of Russian intelligence. If you had to handicap this thing, how likely do you think it is it's homegrown as opposed to Russian or some other foreign interest?
Sure. So if you ask me to handicap it, JD, and before I do that, I'll just put this parenthetical expression out there. I am doing this in a fact-free environment. I have no data, but you're asking me to handicap it. Right now, all ties go to the Russians, that they're doing this, simply because of the track record that they've established.
Well, there are political overtones even to that assessment, because we've heard so much from the Democrats, oh, it's the Russians doing this, the Russians are involved, the Russians want to see Donald Trump win, but we'll get to the political fallout a bit later. To the emails themselves, it is intriguing to see what Colin Powell apparently wrote to former White House Chief of Staff Kenneth Duberstein. He says to him, I didn't tell Hillary to have a private server at home connected to the Clinton Foundation. Two contractors who took away 60,000 emails and had her own domain. In another email to his former chief of staff, he wrote, HRC and her mishandling of this has really given her a major problem I do not wish to get involved in, despite the best efforts of her team to drag me in. So you've got that on the Hillary side, speaking critically of Mrs. Clinton, but there's something for everybody. There is Colin Powell saying in another email that he does not like Donald Trump, calling him, quote, a national disgrace and, quote, an international pariah. Now, Mike, you have had some criticisms of Mr. Trump, but to see that rather harsh assessment put out there, helpful or harmful to our electoral process?
Well, again, J.D., we've seen a general degradation in the tone and in the civility of our presidential campaign. I'm certain that Secretary Powell would have never made those kinds of remarks in front of any kind of public audience, but if they are indeed his emails, it's the kind of thing that he, you, I, most people share when we think we've got these private moments. But it does suggest this general degradation in civility. And JD, let me just be very candid. I've written several op-eds saying that I cannot vote for Mr. Trump and I won't vote for Secretary Clinton. And so I guess I'm in the same space that Secretary Powell's in. I don't know what to do given what I view to be two very bad choices.
Well, let us go to, apart from personalities and who you might pull the lever for, let's talk about other stories that are influencing our situation right now worldwide. Our parent website, Newsmax.com, reported this morning that over $37 million of the money the U.S. sent to Iran has now gone straight to terrorist groups. And the irony of this, Mike, is back in January of this year, our commander-in-chief stepped in front of the cameras just glowing and bragging about this deal. Let's look and listen.
This is a good day because once again we're seeing what's possible with strong American diplomacy. As I said in my State of the Union address, ensuring the security of the United States and the safety of our people demands a smart, patient, and disciplined approach to the world. That includes our diplomacy with the Islamic Republic of Iran.
In retrospect, anything about that deal smart?
Well, JD, I've been a critic of the deal, and in this particular case, what you've got is a think tank extrapolating. If you look at the percentage of the Iranian budget that goes to these dark things, they applied that percentage to the money that Iran has already covered and came up with the figure that you quoted. JD, money's fungible, as you and I know. And I think you and I had already concluded that some fraction of this money was going to free up resources for the Iranians to continue to do the kinds of things that they had been doing in the Middle East. And JD, let me offer a judgment. It's not been steady as you go. It's gotten worse. They have been emboldened. They've attempted to humiliate us. They are no longer sanctioned, no longer isolated. And so one of the direct byproducts of the deal is an Iran that is much more difficult to cope with in the region in the near term.
And Mike, let's just keep on the subject of Iran. Over the past couple of weeks, we've seen their attack boats basically go in and try to interfere with our Navy ships in the Persian Gulf. And now we are hearing bellicose statements that the Iranians say they could very well fire on American aircraft even outside in international airspace. What do you make of that? How serious should we take the threat? And is this the direct result of Mr. Obama's insistence that we be more accommodating to the Iranians?
So JD, I think both the perception and the reality of the nuclear deal is that we made serious concessions to the Iranians. And that's, I think, well recognized in the neighborhood. I think also recognized in the neighborhood has been a general American retrenchment from the Persian Gulf region. That's emboldened the Iranians, and they want to drive that point home in the neighborhood by being as provocative as, and here's the important part, JD, as provocative as they think they can get away with the Americans. And this is a very, very dangerous game because sooner or later, some local American commander exercising the inherent right of self-defense is going to do something that neither the Iranians nor our government here in Washington are going to want to have happen, and then we're going to have a real crisis on our hands.
Michael, on that ominous note, we will thank you and bid you adieu. General Michael Hayden tonight from Newsmax, Washington. When we come back, Donald Trump's new child care proposal.